Hey, welcome to another Javier Mendez podcast, live from Dubai with Javier Mendez, who's looking great, looking fit, been playing a lot of tennis. What have you been doing over there? You've been out hanging out with your friends?
I ain't playing tennis. I'm watching them play tennis, and I'm eating. You know, I mean, these guys don't basically. They keep entertaining you, and you have to keep eating. You just minimize what you eat, but it's a great place to be for so many beautiful people that just come and just treat you like gold. It's just incredible how the hospitality over here and UAE is. It's incredible. It's almost every place I've been. It's a Habib type territory. It's hospitality is off the charts for me.
Yeah.
But I think in general, UAE is just a very hospitable type of country, and I mean, everybody that's around here, everybody I talk, all the foreigners that are here, they love it here. They love it here. The only thing they don't love is the summertime, the hot weather. When you were here, that's the only thing. Other than that, is what's there not to love about here? I mean, you got almost everything you would want here.
Nothing like 98 degrees in the morning to wake up to. Melt your face off on the porch.
Yeah, at the present time, believe it or not, it's at night now you have to kind of wear a jacket a little bit. It's getting a little cold like that. Not too cold, but you can wear jackets now, even during the day now.
Yeah, it could drop in the desert at night. You could freeze your butt off. I mean, that's like people don't know this. They think it's hot all the time. Like, at night, just drop like 60 degrees at night, man.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
For sure.
So. Of course, I watch the fights. You're over there, different time zones. So basically, you're reacting to what I'm telling you. And I'm going to tell you, fight of the night was a fight that broke out of the stands. It was Sean Strickland getting in a fight with Dricus du Plessis because Dana sat them in the same. Did you see that?
I saw that. They were heckling each other, and it started, they were heckling each other back and forth, but then Sean jumped over and started hitting on him. That's kind of basically assault from the way I viewed it. It's like the guy was at distance, but Sean just jumped over there and he basically assaulted the guy, from what I viewed. I mean, I don't know how anybody else is going to view it any different.
I mean, what are we in the 70s and 80s when that was acceptable? That used to be acceptable.
I mean, right? But, okay, if this would have been a Colby type scenario, then Sean would probably be in trouble, but he's not going to Colby him. He's not going to, call the authorities on him, because if he did, I mean, I'm sorry, but they'll probably put a arrest warrant out for Strickland based on what he did. That from what I viewed, I didn't see what's being said, unless he said, I'm going to kill you or something. Then that's okay. If you say something like that, then, then Sean's got a right to protect himself, but if it's nothing like threatening his life or his family members, then I don't know. But it's because you can get away with things if someone is threatening you or your family members. You can do that, I guess. I don't know.
Well, I saw Chuck Liddell kind of calming him down, and I'm like, well, now there's a guy that knows his way around a street fight. Chuck Liddell was known for that growing up, being a bouncer.
Grew up with him a little bit. Did you do some work with him?
I did some collaborations with Chuck. He used to sponsor the gym that I had. And he was friends with the guy that used to work with me in real estate years ago.
Chris?
Yeah, Chris Greenman. And so we'll get to know Chuck pretty good, but I got to know of Chuck because he was always a gentleman around me. I don't see him as a, like, watch out, Chuck's going to go crazy kind of guy. He's the guy that takes care of business. Like, I mean, we were talking back like a few months ago, 6-7 months ago, about Lee Murray, about the fight that went down at the UFC in London, because the British guys, the London guys, English guys are very, very street tough, like street boxers. Like, it's hereditary street fighting, like bare knuckle on the streets. And supposedly Tito got knocked out and Chuck took care of a couple of guys, himself. And it was like an all out melee.
That was the story I heard. Something like Lee Murray, I guess allegedly, because I don't know if it's a fact, but allegedly dropped Tito and a street fight there. And yeah, Chuck, I guess, did his thing too. But this is, to me, I don't know if they're facts, because I don't remember quite exactly if it was facts or if they were just allegedly that's what happened. Tito definitely is not admitting to it. And I mean, I don't know. I don't know if it happened or didn't happen. Maybe it didn't happen. Who knows? We know we heard about it, right? We know that allegedly we heard about it. So
a couple stories come. I think we've dispelled some myths, like, and I'll just hit the headlines and I'll go back deep in the story. The first one is hype doesn't carry into championship level. You can't hype your way into being a champion. Number two, the Navy SEAL system's pretty cool, but it doesn't work on a guy that's been through the Justin Gaethje machine and then passed on down on a 7-fight win streak, unfortunately. You know, I could see some hope, but I see a guy that's taken so many fights, and I think Khabib's analysis of Tony once he went through that fight with Gaethje, he's like, he'll never be the same.
Yeah, no, Khabib made that statement, and listen, I felt he still had some fight left in him. I wasn't sure about Goggins. I told you, I don't know. Maybe, because I don't know the type of training. I don't, I've never, I know what I make my champions on, and it's majority of it is mental. So, but I'm more than a mental guy. I teach them the physical and the technique.
You are a fighter.
Yeah, no, I'm a fighter too. But what I'm saying is, I'm not David Goggins is mental, like the threshold of die type mentality, So I don't know that kind of pressure that he does, but I'm not so sure that it will work wisely in a fight. I'm not sure. I wasn't sure. I wanted to see or hear about it at least. And apparently, you could tell me, did Tony look flat? Did he look energetic throughout the whole thing? Or
he looked energetic, but I don't know. I was being critical of just the physique, like as age, father time starts creeping on you. Something that you said from our last podcast really struck in my head, that the longer that you try to stay at that weight, the harder it is on your body as you get older. And then Khabib retiring from the 155 at that age makes sense. Anybody at 155, 145, their body's going to want to put on weight, and it's going to be harder to sustain, and it's harder to keep the power in your body at that weight class compared to someone who's young and doing it much easier, right?
Right. Like I told you, one of the things that goes first as you get older, speed. And for light guys like that, they need that speed. If they lose their speed, it's getting tougher, man. The bigger guys, they have power, and the last thing that goes is power. So you have speed too, but power is a big thing for mostly everybody. But everybody starts losing speed, is what I'm saying. 35 on up, they started slowing down. Some may peak later, but most 35, 36. They hit their peak, and then they start declining. And then they may hold on for a little bit, but they're not the same. You cannot tell me that a guy that's 33, 34, 35 is going to be just as good as a guy that's 40, 43, 41. There's no way the 35-year-old is going to be ahead of him. Everything being equal, the 35 is going to have more. So it's just logical sense, right? That person that gets older after 35, the fighters decline, and it's been throughout that forever in boxing. Since I was a little boy watching boxing, the older they got, the harder it was to maintain. The heavier guys were able to maintain more because they spent less time, on throwing punches, and power was a big main factor for heavyweights. So power is one of the last things that leave, but the body, mechanics start falling apart. You're not as agile. You're not as quick, for sure. That's the number one thing I'm talking about. You're not as fast. But agility starts going too. You start losing your balance as you get older. So I know. I walk sometimes and I think I'm going to fall on my face with just normal walking.
Yeah, you and I could get put at what our ideal fight weight would be. I'd be 205. You'd be what, 170? What was 180? What was your fight weight?
Well, I used to fight at 178, but I used to walk around training in the gym. I'd walk in about 183, 184. After training, I was at fight weight, so I would lose 4 or 5 pounds of water weight every workout. So I never really, cut. So it isn't like what the guys do now, right? Like if I was doing MMA, I would be a 155er. Because I wouldn't be a welterweight. Those guys were too big, for me. Like I was Habib's size, basically. but I didn't cut that weight at all, really. I just did a workout and there I was. So I never went through hard weight cuts. That's why when the guys do the weight cuts, I'm never with them. And then, the times I have gone, oh my gosh, they had put themselves through torture. If
Yeah.
I had to do that when I was fighting, I don't know if I'd want to fight. That weight cut is worse than anything I've ever experienced as a coach. The worst.
Wrestlers have the advantage there. Wrestlers have been doing it their whole life. Everybody else, like, this is a strange, new, horrible torture I have to do. And now I have to figure out at which level to torture myself so where I want to fight. And hopefully my body shows up. The power band at that weight. Go ahead.
But by the time the guys get to the UFC or high levels, they're already used to those cuts. They're good to go. But that weight cut is probably the worst thing that's out there for fighting, I believe, personally.
So basically how that fight went, since you didn't get a chance to see it, the Paddy Pimblett and Tony Ferguson, and we'll bounce to the other ones too. Paddy Pimblett came in and he started putting hands on Tony. He started lighting him up. I mean, he almost put him out in the first round or so. And then Tony hung in there. And then, in the last, like the third round, there was a chance for Tony to get him on the feet, like a couple minutes left, because Paddy had blown his load. He was done. He was out of juice, out of go power. So he did a takedown and just smothered Tony for the last 2 or 3 minutes. He just laid on him, basically. He wasn't like doing a lot of effective submissions or ground and pound. So, I don't know. Here's the two things, my takeaway. Paddy is, if you can't beat the old beaten down seven fight losing streak, Tony Ferguson is not the Tony Ferguson of 8 fights ago, then you're going to have hell. If you don't let your yap start going when you want to step up into the Gaethje and, the Islam range and everybody up further up that thing. You don't want to talk about those guys yet. You need to earn your bones, because you're having trouble with what's like a generation that's about to retire. And also, Dana was like, I hope he retires. I would urge him to retire, but he didn't want to say it meanly out of respect. I mean, Dana gave him a lot of chances, 7 fights. He still got the will to fight. He didn't get beaten like, unfortunately, like other fighters who were getting knocked out their last 4 or 5 fights at the end of their career consistently. But what are you there for? Cannon fodder? I mean, people want to see you win. They want to see a turnaround at some point, every couple fights at least. What do you think on that, Jav?
Well, number one, the UFC, leasing him at this stage might benefit them. Before it didn't, because he's still a needle mover. He's really good, for advertising, hyping fights up. Tony's still good at that. So, the fact that there's like bare knuckle fighting, the fact that there's other organizations out there, it means that Tony still has a job if he wants to, for high paying job, because people pay to watch him. So I think he probably needs to really look at himself now, because that's 7 in a row and he keeps changing things up. Father time's catching him up more. I mean, it's going to be up to him and his family, but I know I don't want to say he should retire. That's on him. But I didn't see the fight. But for Paddy, it was kind of like a no-win situation for him unless he finished Tony really bad, and he
right.
Tony
and he didn't.
So Paddy's stock didn't raise too much, in my opinion, basically because he didn't. He beat him 30-27 from what I read, but he didn't finish him and he didn't damage him too much other than the first round, like you said. So, and then he got tired and then he held on, but also says something about the Paddy's jiu-jitsu is decent enough to survive taking Tony to the ground, because Tony's known for having a hell of a ground game. So if Tony was in great shape, which I'm assuming training with David Goggins he wasn't able to do nothing with it. So all that conditioning didn't apply well to what he needed to do to win the fight. So, I wasn't in camp with him, so I don't know exactly what he was doing for actual training, but the mental part I do know about, because like I said, that's what I do, so I don't know. I don't know what he should do, but
You haven't recommended many of your people to retire, even though you thought they should have, because you found out
it doesn't work.
It usually ruins the friendship at some point, or some
they
people
don't
like.
retire.
Yeah.
They don't retire. I allude to that. I say, hey, maybe you consider this, but they don't.
Maybe you get a job at UPS.
Yeah, then they punch you.
They punch you in the mouth.
Yeah, just
and then you get now you're retired.
yeah, you're retired and you're in the hospital.
That's horrible.
Tell me to retire. Screw you. Boom. No, I don't. I've never been successful getting people to retire. I tried to get DC to retire right after he beat Stipe. I didn't want him to fight anymore. I did not want him to fight anymore, and I urged him to quit. Please, why? Why didn't you already? You made history. 2-time champion, finished on a good note. Nope, Dana threw too much money at him. And then he had back surgery. And then DC was never the same after back surgery. Older now, back
he admits
surgery
it.
Was nothing. He was nothing like before. Nothing. And then what do? They fight him again. They offer him too much money again. So DC fights again. So he fights Stipe 3 times. And to me, I wanted him to retire right after he won the title. But hey, he's a man. He decides what he wants to do. And like you said, Hob, they're throwing too much money at me. I can't, I like that money too much. He didn't say that, but he just said they're throwing too much money at me. Hey, what are you gonna do? It's like, okay, he's a man. He knows what he's doing. That's what he wants to do. Let him do it. I mean, how many people can go out in a 2-month period make a couple $1 million or whatever they paid him? Which I'm sure was probably in that neighborhood.
Right.
So who am I to tell him, don't do that? I mean, I wanted to be that guy and it didn't work for me. But at the end, they offered too much money, like you said.
It's pretty tough to tell anybody to retire. I would guess. I've never had to do that. It's never been my thing, working in real estate years ago. Bob, you haven't had a listing in 2 months. It's time to go. Now, that's nothing like talking to a fighter. That's a whole different story. But I don't know. To give you to bounce around. Oh, one more thing. Congratulations on Tahir. We didn't talk about him last time. I feel bad about that, but he was on the undercard. I didn't see it, so I was looking at the main card. So Tahir had a great victory. He looked good.
Second round submission. It wasn't quite under, but the pressure was so good, and he was so good at what he's doing that tapped out for the pain. Tahir is one of those kind of guys that keeps playing away, keep getting better. The last time when he was here, when we were training with Islam, I worked with him, and I said, wow, I go, because I worked with him a lot in the past, and he's gotten better at the things I've been working with him on. And he's such a beautiful kid. Oh my God, he is such a beautiful guy. I love that guy. He's so loyal, so just soft-spoken, and such a workhorse, that I was very proud of him. And I know there's more to him. He's got my style in him, and it's just improving more and more. And I'm so happy to hear he won. Obviously I wanted to watch it, but not at the type of my sleep. And they kept me up till like 3, 4 in the morning, and where I was at. And I know, and I was like, my sleep. So I'll watch the fights, but I can't watch them yet until I get somebody that has them on replay, and I can watch them. Or somebody, I guess you can watch UFC, some kind of passes or something, not UFC pass, Fight Pass, because I have that. But there's another one that you can rewatch it.
It might be an ESPN. I don't know.
It might be, or maybe it's just over here in the UAE.
Maybe you gotta buy the pay-per-view. I have no idea.
I think it might be because they don't have. I think you're right. It might be over here that they can do it because they don't have pay-per-view over here. Not like that. So well, anyways, I was very happy for him, and I'm thinking, maybe 1-2 more fights, maybe he's in title contention. I think so. I mean, he's doing great. He's, his one loss was against the cheater, and the one that admitted to cheating. Because he said if you don't cheat, you don't win. It's like, what kind of attitude is that? Like crazy.
That's like some gangster stuff, but it doesn't necessarily translate into sportsmanship. Everybody thinks everybody's doing something. Yeah, it was cool to see Islam out there. Islam was like filling in for you and Habib. And, it was interesting, just to drop this side note. So some reporter asked Dana about, Islam moving up, and Dana was kind of like, nah, don't want to see that right now. That was kind of what he was saying. That was the way he was kind of like responding to the reporter.
Yeah.
But you didn't really see Islam make a loud call out, but that may come in time. That all comes in time when you look at what you get your hands to deal with.
Well, I mean, calling out Leon, they're two good guys, so it's kind of tough, It's like
Colby would have been a needle mover. Yeah.
Yeah. The thing is, a friend of mine asked me to pick the winners for him, and I picked all the main event winners. I got them all right for him, except I went when you give someone your advice without putting your heart in it and just put your mind in it. I did fantastic. When I put my heart, I got involved with that part. Those are the ones I lost. Out of the 11 that I sent, I hit 8 on the nail, and the ones I lost were the ones like with Tony. I wanted him to win, so my heart was with Tony. So I said Tony, but I was like, and then on the other one, it's the same thing. I knew him, so I went with him, knowing full well that probably was going to go the other way, but I still went with him. And then on the other one, I didn't like the person, so I went with him, and that didn't go well. And I'm like, oh man, like what a dingbat,
Well,
because I gave to somebody who was betting, who was making bets because he didn't know what to bet, and I was like, I just gave him advice. I don't know. I just said bet this, that. This is what I think. He just asked me who do I think will win, so I gave him, and I got 8 out of 11 that I sent correct.
Well, if he killed it, you'll come back to San Jose. There's a new Winnebago as a gift in your backyard. Here,
well, he lives in Vegas, so and I don't think it's much betting. I think very little. I would, obviously I can't bet, but on, it's like I'm not really giving advice because I don't know.
It's too personal of a business for you to bet on fighting, I guess. Do you feel
no,
that
you can't. You can't. James Krause, when he did what he did, that kind of killed everybody.
So now you're not allowed to as fighters. Okay.
No, you get in trouble. I never in my life bet anyways on fighters. Never.
Well, I know you didn't. That's what I was trying to say. Even now that it's a rule, I know you didn't. Yeah.
No.
It's kind of like taboo. Like, hey, listen, I don't want to put any mojo into that era.
No. But you asked me who I think is gonna win. I can give you that, but for betting, don't be thinking that I'm gonna, work with you on that, because I'm not.
I will tell you a stunner. Josh Emmett, one punch KO of Bryce Mitchell. I don't know if you've seen the replay of that. He had him in convulsions. It was so much of a hammer punch. So
no, that's one of the ones. That's one of the ones that I went with who I knew, and Bryce Mitchell I knew, thinking that Josh Emmett would probably win.
Yeah,
you see what I'm saying? I went with my heart, not my brain. And if I'd have went with my brain, I would have went with Josh, because logically I said I don't see how Bryce can beat this guy, because he wasn't gonna be able to take him down, and the guy punches like a brick, So I went with him because of that reason. That's why I'm saying I went with Tony, because I thought I wanted Tony. I went with my heart, and I went with Bryce because of I knew him. So I don't go against guys I know. Even if I think they're going to lose, I still go with them. I've said it many times. So I know Bryce, so I wanted him to win.
And it's looking down the line, Alexander Volkanovski's got some monsters to contend with between him and Ilia Topuria. And he fought Topuria to a decision, which speaks highly of Josh. And maybe his punches just got even harder after what I watched. I was like blown away by that, Let's talk about Shavkat and Stephen Thompson. That was not a stand-up karate match by any means.
No. But also Shavkat was injured.
Oh, was he?
Yeah, he's injured. He was injured. He really couldn't kick very much, so he wasn't injured. So he went to the grappling, from what I understand, because he really couldn't kick with them, because so he. Well, how'd the fight go? Yeah, I submitted him. I know that.
Yeah, well, it looked like Thompson was going to get some stuff. He get some kicks off, and all of a sudden, he's up against the side of he's up against the fence, and eventually, Shavkat slowly but surely, like kind of a anaconda, slipped in the submission, got Thompson, which no one's ever submitted him in a rear naked choke, and there he was. He won. It looked almost boring, but who cares? At the end of the day, it's a win, right? It's a win.
Well, It's a win against Thompson, who's never been submitted. So
It's
whatever you wanna
significant
call
for
it.
what it is. It's
Yeah.
significant that he did, while injured, what nobody's ever done. So
Yeah.
definitely
And
hats off to
then
him.
here I am, Mr. Expert. I didn't realize that. I remembered watching Darren Till beat him, and I made those comments in regards to pure stand up. But if I remember correctly, Darren Till did kind of give him the indicator, I want to take you down. So and then what do you call it? What do you call it? Superman punch him and knocked him, but he was not doing well with him on the stand up. So
Anthony Pettis actually knocked him out. I wanted to.
yeah, but the Superman punch, you knocked him out with the Superman punch.
Yeah,
but he wasn't going to beat him on the stand up, is what I'm saying. And then Darren Till, if I remember correctly, kind of used some kind of grappling too to set up the strikes, and that's what I was saying. And one of the fans got me, and whether he's right or wrong, I don't know. It's still debatable. So, but yeah, Shavkat, I remember I said I don't think he's going to stand with him. If he's smart, he wouldn't. And obviously he's smart. He didn't. So good for him.
So, and then let's see. Pantoja versus Royval. That was a back and forth fight. Pantoja mainly controlled it on the ground to keep the more points in his favor and keep the belt. Royval was definitely game. It was back and forth, but then you could tell, okay, I'm going to get my feet my stand-up going on you, Royval, and then all of a sudden Pantoja's like, no, you're going back to the ground some more, and then back and forth and scrambles, and it ends up like it was a decision. So it is what it was. In my opinion, I don't know, just to recap the Leon Edwards, Colby Covington. Colby looked slow. He didn't get started. Blamed it on ring rust. Never really had Leon in any difficulty. Ended in the final frame on top of him doing much of nothing, on top of Leon, who clearly won 4 rounds, maybe 4.5 rounds by then. So all that hype, all that horrible talk and horrible stuff he said about his family didn't amount to much. It's just like I guess some guys trying to hype themselves are looking for the lowest common denominator to insult somebody's family, or it's just stuff that shouldn't be allowed, man. It should be outlawed. You should.
Well, I think I think he's got a little out of control with that, and he paid for it, and should maybe next time. I don't know. I mean, he's very witty, and but you gave Leon the ammunition he needed to use it against you, and he used it well. He stayed relaxed, stayed calm. Everybody told me how calm and relaxed he was, and he did what he needed to do to win the fight.
Oh, you kind of went out there for a sec.
Yeah, I went out. Hold on.
Now here we are. We're just wrapping it up anyways. We get to the end of the fights. So based on this, I don't know how much it changes for you and your world of your fighters. There's no real call outs or anything stacked there. Michael Venom Page has just joined the UFC, and he's going to be fighting Miami against Kevin Holland. What do you think about that match?
Fun fight. Real fun fight.
Right?
Yeah. Very fun.
I'm feeling Michael Venom Page on this one for some reason. It's the speed and the reach.
I don't know. Let's see. It's going to be fun.
So any word on what's going on with Bellator and your guys, or you guys are just like kind of like spinning on that? Like any fighters that you have over there?
I don't know. I know they're from what I hear, they're only planning 8 shows, Bellator shows next year, and I don't know exactly what's going on. I don't know. I really don't know. I'm sure they're going to be cutting people left and right. The people that have lost, probably their jobs are in jeopardy if they're not stars or they're not potential. Yeah, if they're not stars, they're probably going to cut a lot of guys.
But do they have the option to like bounce out and say, hey, I want to try the UFC? If the UFC is open to them.
I don't think so. I think if they cut you, they cut you. I think maybe they, I don't think people that have lost, why would the UFC take a Bellator fighter unless they're
No. I'm saying if you're a star, none of the stars have flexibility to just walk right now and walk over to the UFC.
No, they're not going to let stars walk. Can you imagine? Usman says I want to come to UFC and PFL says yes. I mean, they paid How much for Bellator? No, you're gonna let one of your big major assets go? No way.
No way. Yeah, they wouldn't want to do that in a million years. So how
No.
much do you have anything like any that you can't disclose or whatever, but do you have anything going on with Umar? Or are you coming back in January?
I'm coming back in January, but nothing set. And you know, and like I always say, you know, unless the UFC announces it, there's nothing set. And I know myself personally, there's nothing that I know of. I just know Umar wants to fight before Ramadan.
Yeah. So do you think fights are being made on needle moving ability more than anything lately? They're not linear anymore. They're becoming more about how much hype can this card pack, like everything's customly designed, as opposed, because I feel your fighters would be fighting more right now. Like, let's put them on the next card. It just doesn't, it seems to be really
I always
stacked.
thought it was that way. I always thought it was needle moving more than anything. You know, and contractor, they have to put people on because they have a contract with them. You can't, okay, if you have a contract with the fighter, you have to let them fight 2 times a year. Usually, contract is 2 times a year, right? Usually, unless the state specifies that he needs to fight 3 times. If you can't fight him, he either has to be injured or or decline the fight that you offer. So you offer him fights, the fighter declines, then you can extend his contract. So there, the fighter can go from 1 fight a year to no fights in a year if he keeps declining the opponents. So the UFC has the right, and all promotions have the right to skip them if they offer legit opponents and the fighter rejects it. His management rejects the fights, then they can, count it as we offered. You're still on contract. We're not going to offer you anything till now another 6 months. So that's what happens. So that's why sometimes you see fighters that don't fight like they want to because they didn't come to the table with an opponent.
I think another thing, my other takeaway from his press conference, he wants to open up new territories, probably new parts of Europe, new parts of Asia. He wants to start getting back out there now that things are hitting normalcy after the couple previous years. He wants to really get the UFC, where people have their own local heroes fighting. That's
obviously that's a brand that they were doing way back then, and they're going back to it, and it's going to be extremely successful for them, and they're way ahead of everybody. No one's even close. I don't care what anybody says. I've been in the business. I know the business. You can't catch the UFC. Oh, we're next to you. No, you're not. No one is next to them. And maybe in pay, but not as far as popularity. No way, not happening. Not anytime soon. And anybody that thinks that, oh, we're the next, there's really no next, really, if you think about it. They're the top dogs, as far as MMA,
Mm-hmm. What did you think about that short that Islam sent you when he was looking for you at the gym? I thought that was funny.
Yeah. I asked him if I can post it. He said, yeah.
I'm like, hey, when are you over here and I'm over there? I mean, usually it's the opposite, right? It's usually like, you're in San Jose.
He came to Dubai too, and he tried to get a hold of me, but he had to go to a boxing event. I had another engagement I had to go to, so I couldn't go. So I couldn't meet him. He was only here for the day. So, he came here too. And then he went to San Jose. Then he went to coach to, train here and corner him. Because I was there.
Habib's getting a little break. But have you met up with Habib since you've been there? I thought I saw a picture of you and Habib. I never know your
face. One time that was very difficult too, because Habib, when he's here, he's real busy all the time. He's got so many meetings, so many things he's got to do. So not easy to meet him. Not easy to talk to him. It's hard. I haven't talked to him in a couple of weeks. It's not that easy. I can call him, but doesn't mean he's going to answer. It's like very difficult. Sometimes when he's in the mountains, I can't reach him. There's no phone service really. Text him, but I used to text a lot. Now I hardly text at all. If I can't talk to him or I can see his face, I really don't like texting no more. So it's tough. But we'll be back. We'll be back in January, and we'll see. What happens with Umar. Hopefully, we know within a week or two, or who knows when. I don't know. I know he wants to fight. I know he wants to get ready to fight, and Islam too. I'm sure. We haven't heard nothing about him. But remember, when Ramadan comes, they're not fighting. So,
Well, it almost seems like and I'm not, trying to say this, but it almost seems like they're trying to keep him exclusively in Abu Dhabi. It just seems like that from my perspective. I'm not the expert, just looking at like where he's fought, but it's maybe that's not true.
No,
it just looks like that.
They're trying to market him everywhere. It's just that Abu Dhabi was a great place for him to fight, but obviously he's great over here. But for him to build his brand, the UFC knows Abu Dhabi is not the only place. He has to fight like New York, Madison Square Garden, things like that, to build his brand worldwide. So the better bang for Islam's buck is to fight Madison Square Garden, other places other than here. If he fights here all the time, it's not going to benefit him as much. It'd be great for us. It'd be great for me because I love it here. Like for me, it'd be awesome, but for his marketability, it may not be as good. So that's why I'm pushing for Umar to get his title shot over here. Just kind of wishing the crystal ball, get us 1-2 more wins and give us a title fight in Abu Dhabi.
Well, see, what people don't know is that the UFC is based on your crystal ball, and that's how everything works.
My crystal ball. Based.
Oh my gosh!
Manipulating that ball to come to me.
Well,
if only that was true.
Thanks for another awesome podcast, Hav.
All right, man.